So friends, what a joy to be an active participant in raising the consciousness of love in our world, especially at a time such as this. For in unity, and those who have been part of this higher consciousness, this expanded consciousness movement, we understand that this presence, this power, this energy that we call love is the great harmonizer in the universe. It keeps things in order. It keeps like the glue of the universe that hold things together. And when we share love from this deepest part of our being, love grows and it multiplies. So just look at the person sitting next to you and say, I sure do love you today. Come on, smile and tell them. I sure do love you. Say it with a smile so they'll know you need it. At least pretend like you do. In keeping with the theme for the summit and the message this afternoon, we will focus on the idea. I know we have something printed. It's a two-part conversation. And it actually comes from this wonderful card that Reverend Arlene has distributed and the team. And the thought for this talk, this conversation, is simply turn it up and change the world. Yeah? Turn it up. Come on, turn it up. Turn it all the way up. And change the world. Turn it up, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up. Encourage two people around you. Turn it up. Turn it all the way up. Turn it up. Turn it up. To listen closely today, especially those of you who might be faced with any difficulties or challenges, and in unity, we refer to such as divine opportunities. They are opportunities for us to see just how great this power and this presence, known by many names that we call God the good omnipotence, is in us, through us, and as us. Listen closely. If you've been feeling as though you're spinning your wheels and getting nowhere in life, listen closely. If you have become disappointed and disillusioned with some of the happenings in our society, in our world today, listen up. If you believe there is still hope for the hopeless, if you feel that our best days are still ahead, listen closely. If you feel a call to be a catalyst, an agent of transformation in this world, are you listening? Huh? Listen up. For there is a word today. Now, you know, on occasions, they call me the New Thought Preacher. Now, I don't know why they call me that, but I do know that when the preacher comes, I was told at my very first Unity Church in Chicago, Illinois, I was taught by the Reverend Dr. Barbara King and my spiritual grandmother, Reverend Dr. Barbara King, my spiritual mother, Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman, my spiritual grandmother. And now the late Reverend Frederick Eichencoder, better known to millions as Reverend Ike, is my spiritual father and mentor. And I was taught by Dr. Johnny Coleman that when you show up prepared. And at that very first Unity Church, I had my manuscript and I showed up to just give my talk, and all of a sudden one Sunday something happened. And before I realized it, I was walking and talking the floor, running along the floor, and the people were looking at me like, what happened? They said, I didn't know you were going to do all of that. And I'm like, I didn't know I was going to do all that. But what they said, Kat, was that those who, you know, I do believe that when we have eyes, we can truly see. And when we have ears, we can truly hear. The master teacher says that they have eyes, yet they cannot see. And they have ears, yet they cannot hear. And one wise soul said to me one day, she says, Reverend Jack, there beside you, when you stand, is a little man. And at a certain point, he steps in. and he takes over. And you get kind of weird. Woo, that's all right. I feel him here. He's now. He's here and he's now. But you know, if you cannot enjoy your truth, trade it in. Huh? Hey, if your truth does not bring you joy, doesn't put a smile on your face, money in your pocket, good times in your life, trade it in and try mine. You can't lose with the truth I use. You can't miss if you work with this. Turn it up and change the world. The foundational principle of truth, as we teach it in unity, is found in the writings of Dr. Emily Cady in her book, Lessons in Truth. Those of you who've gone through Lessons in Truth, you know this foundational principle of truth that says God is. Say that God is. And we know that God, this is big enough. God is big enough, this presence, power, energy, vibration, this consciousness, this mind, as Ernest Holmes says, there's only one mind and it is God. And we all have our beingness in the one mind. So although it appears that there are 600 plus in here, there's only one present, and it's God, and it's good. And all of the various shapes and sizes and forms, and Ricky told me I've known you in all of your sizes. Oh, she says, I knew you when you were, that small size. I'm like, Ricky, I'm still small in my mind. But my slacks doesn't agree at times. Pardon me, y'all. I'm going to get to it. Reverend Darlene, please invite me back. I promise you I'm going to be. So Dr. Emily Cady says in her book, Lessons in Truth, the foundational principle of truth is God is the one life, the one love, the one spirit, the one mind, the one basis, the one principle, the one being expressing in different degrees of manifestations. When we say God is all there is nothing else, just God. And as we can train the mind and get it in the pico, well, in the South we call it the crawl. Get it down in the crawl. That when craziness show up, when all manner of stuff tries to appear, we will know the truth that God is. And because God is, I am. And all that God is. Say it, all that God is. Oh, you got to put it on. Come on, put it on like you put on your clothes. All that God is, I am. That's the truth. So we are all part of this oneness. Each one of us, we have our beingness in this oneness, regardless of our nationality, regardless of our race, regardless of our gender, regardless to our family status, regardless to our employment status, our financial status, our education, regardless to our orientation or our preferences. We all have our beingness in this oneness. Isn't that good news? Dr. Emily Cady says the primary cause of all human suffering is forgetfulness. That when we forget that we all have our one, all of us have our oneness in this presence. When we forget that, we suffer. Our Buddhist brothers and sisters teach that the primary cause of all human suffering is attachment. We like to bridge the two, that when we forget that we all have our oneness in this, our beingness in this oneness, we suffer, then we grow attached to all of the wrong stuff. We find our sense of identity in all of the things and all of the other titles and the expressions that are temporal. They pass away. Paul reminds us, for we are all baptized by one Spirit so as to form one body. Come on, one body. Whether Jews or Greeks, slave or free, we were all given one Spirit to drink. We are one. Many of you might recall several years ago, there was a whole movement that started. It was a movement entitled the WWJD movement. Anyone heard of that movement? And WWJD, an acronym for? Some of you know about that, yeah. What would Jesus do movement. And it became a personal motto for Christian evangelicals as they felt a sense of belief in a moral imperative to act in a manner that would demonstrate the love of Jesus Christ in the world. And the youth groups within that particular branch of Christianity decided to make bracelets to raise consciousness, and they began to circulate these bracelets. Anybody recall those bracelets? The WWJD bracelets, and then the cups and the shirts and all of that. And using that to build upon as a foundation, I would like to offer another movement today. The WWLDN movement. What would love do now? Got it? All right. The WWLDN. This is hot off the press. So you can take it and run with it, Reverend Darlene. Bracelets, everything. Mugs, t-shirts, everything. WWLDN. What would love do now? And given the seeming divide in our nation, the question is asked, what would love do now? Given the condition of our world, the question is, what would love do now? Given the massive energy and tension around race and humanity and identity and equality, a country and belonging, the question is, what would love do now? And given even the latest report of that great renowned theoretical physicist, Stephen Hawking, who just last month came out with a new prediction. Remember, it was a few months ago, he had a prediction that we have at least another 1,000 years here on this earth before we self-destruct. But he changed it last month, and he came out with a new prediction. He says that humankind has less than 100 years on this earth before we're encouraged to find a new home because of man's efforts to self-destruct. Climate change and all of the global emphasis. And the question is asked, what would love do now? 100 years, my friends, that's only one human lifetime. One human lifetime. Supposedly, that the earth, this mother, the mother that we call earth, would be no more. And that's his prediction. And they say, cancel? Come on, let's cancel that. Say, oh, no, that's not our truth. So the call for us today is simply to wake up. Wake up. To wake up to the truth of our beingness. Wake up to the truth of spirit that moves in us, through us, and as us. And here's the thing. We can go from Mother Earth to Mars to Jupiter to Saturn, and you know what will happen? We will do the same thing there. You know why? Because you take you with you wherever you go. I take me with me wherever the consciousness that I take from Beaufort, South Carolina, that I bring to Asheville, North Carolina. This is my first time coming, and it's really beautiful. I love it. I look forward to coming in. Will create the same conditions. Those who've been in, from one job to the next, and it's been the same stuff. The consciousness, we take our consciousness with us. And sacred text says, whatever we bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever we loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. As in heaven, let it be on the earth. That whatever we hold in our own soul, whatever beliefs, whatever thoughts, whatever whole intentions that we hold in the soul will be loosed on the earth. And the earth is our life, our world, and our affairs. The earth. So the call is for us to wake up and realize that we have the power. We have the power. You have the power. Oh, look at the power in this house today. You have a whole lot of power. Collectively, we have it to change and do something so profound as it's happening right now. I believe there's a whole theory. Forgive me for not citing it correctly. because I hadn't planned to talk about it, but it's coming right now. It says that there's a whole ripple effect that occurs when something happens. Even this gathering right now, take a moment, breathe in, touch the hand of the person next to you. If they're comfortable with that, just take their hand. Just hold their hand for a moment. Now, I want you to allow the love, muster up all the love that you have in your life today. Bring it into yourself, into your beingness. Right, think about how good it is just to be here and to be present. Now, allow that love to flow through your hands into that hand, and then be open to receiving and experience the love to come back. Feel that, feel that. And imagine that this love fest that's occurring right now is having an impact on the world as a whole. Some child over in the village of West Africa is feeling the impact. It could be some mother in Dominican Republic or Haiti or the Philippines, or some father here in this country feeling the impact of this collective consciousness today. Someone in the hospital or the nursing home feeling the impact of our collective oneness. All right, you can release that hand and tell them thank you. That was a nice, you know, we're so lovey-dovey and touchy. A few years ago, Eckhart Tolle released a book that became the bestseller after receiving the endorsement of our dear friend and sister Oprah Winfrey. And the book was entitled The Power of Now, a guide to spiritual enlightenment. And he wrote this with the hopes that it would help to raise the consciousness in our world, to transform it by serving as a catalyst of change. And he says that change, true change, is available once we're willing to release the egoic mind, to transform the egoic mind, that mind that often gets stuck. You know, the mind that gets stuck. It just gets stuck. Anybody experienced that mind lately? You've been stuck, got stuck in something, couldn't get out. It says that the mind often gets stuck in the mass distractions. It's stuck in the distractions. And until we release that mind and bring it into wholeness, then ultimately we miss all of the gifts that this present moment affords us, this eternal now. So the power of now is being fully present, as we heard earlier, being fully present in the moment. It is so easy to allow the thieves of time, the thief of the past, what I did, what I could have, should have, would have done, and the thief of tomorrow, the future, to rob us of the gift of this moment. This is a magical moment. This is an extraordinary moment. A moment, check this out, that we will never have again. Never again like this. And what a precious gift it is. The eternal now. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I'm recalling the months before he was assassinated, published a book with the provocative title, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community. And at the very end of that particular book, he quoted from his famous sermon that he preached on April 4th, 1967, a year before he was assassinated. And he used this phrase, the fierce urgency of now. Say that with me, the fierce. I mean, say fierce like, the fierce urgency of now. And this speech was entitled Beyond Vietnam. He delivered it at Riverside Church in New York City. And I want you to just hear these words, if I may, and we're going to move on. He says, we are now faced with the fact, my friends, that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now in this unfolding conundrum of life and history. There is such a thing as being too late. Procrastination is still the thief of time. Life often leaves us standing bare and naked and dejected with a lost opportunity. We may cry out desperately for time to pause and for passage, but time is adamant to every plea and rushes on. And over the bleached bones and jumbled residues of numerous civilizations are written the pathetic words, too late. Too late. Time has moved on. It has been said that we create our tomorrows with our words and intentions today, that today is the residual outcome of our creation yesterday, and tomorrow will be the outcome of what we're creating right now. And if tomorrow is looking like what this room is looking like, it's looking mighty good. There's hope for tomorrow. So in order for us to understand what would love do now, we must know what time it is. You got to know what time it is. What time is it? Yes. What time is it? It's now time. What time is it? Now time. It reminds me of that conversation between this couple. They had a heated conversation, and the husband decided, well, I'm just going to go to bed. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I'm just going to go to bed. I'm going to shut down. You talk to yourself. He goes to bed, decided to leave a note on the pillow. He says, listen, in the note, I need to be up early for work in the morning. I have an important meeting, so please wake me up at 7 a.m. By the time the spouse got to bed, saw the note, went to sleep, the husband got up, the alarm clock going off at 7 a.m., turned over in a panic, leaned over to his spouse to ask, why didn't you wake me up? And there on the pillow was a note saying, it is now 7 a.m., wake up. Friends, we got to know what time it is. You know, it's been said, anybody sleep till an alarm clock, you wake up to an alarm clock? You know, on my phone, I set it, especially when I need to be up. Every 5 minutes, I'll set it as I hit the snooze, like snooze. I know I got at least 10 more snoozes, right? So we play these mind games with ourselves. But in understanding what time it is now time. And sometimes it's very hard to wake up. It's challenging to wake up. Anybody ever been in a good sleep and your bed was holding and hugging you in all of the right ways? It just wouldn't release or let you go, but you had to pull yourself out of sleep and slumber in order to move forward into your day. Friends, there is oftentimes a challenge for people to wake up from sleep and slumber in life. I mean, people can be walking about, going about their daily routines and still be asleep. In fact, many here today may recall growing up in the 60s and 70s. Richard, thank you. During a time of great social and economic and political change. 60s and 70s, all of the 60s and it's 70s. You know, that was some interesting times. I heard about it. I read about it. It says the nation was transitioning from the war in Vietnam to the civil rights movement, to the first lunar space landing in 1969. And it was a time marked with tremendous change. And we were introduced at that time to the tie-dye shirts and the long hair and the afros and the bell-bottom pants and the mini skirts. In one short decade, my friends, it says our nation lost profound leaders such as Medgar Evers and John F. Kennedy and Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert Kennedy. And you may recall some of the many recording artists of the time who wrote songs and lyrics that seemed to speak prophetically to what was happening in society. You know, artists such as Bob Dylan and The Temptations and Simon and Garfunkel and Marvin Gaye. Y'all don't know any of these? And there was one other group, Ricky, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. They released an album in 1975 that was a big hit entitled Wake Up, Everybody, with Teddy Pendergrass as their lead singer. Now, the lyrics of the songs are timeless, and they're still relevant. We're talking about the 60s and 70s. Listen to the lyrics and see how relevant they might be. Wake up, everybody, no more sleeping in bed. No more backward thinking, it's time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from the way it used to be. There is so much hatred, war, and poverty. Wake up, all you teachers, time to teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen to what you have to say, 'cause they're the ones who's coming up and the world is in their hands. When you teach our children, teach them the very best you can. Come on, you know it. The world won't get no better. I know it's not grammatically correct if we just let it be. The world won't get no better, no. We've got to change this world, just you and me. Come on, one more time. The world won't get any better. The world won't get no better, no, if we just let it be. The world won't get no better. We've got to change this world, just you and me. Well, how do we change it? Thank you so much, Richard. How do we change the world? How many of you believe that you are an agent of transformation and that you can bring about a change? You know, quantum physicist says that everything in this world came into existence and was created by thought. That thought created everything that exists. And if we thought it into existence, we can rethink it. Dr. Emma Curtis Hopkins, known as the teacher of teachers in the New Thought movement, she says the world in which you live is the exact replica of your thoughts. And if you don't like the world in which you live, you don't like your very own thoughts. Isn't that heavy? So if we want to see a change, who would like to see that? If we would like to create the change, that we can begin to get into the theater of our mind, the theater of the mind, and begin to see the world, see it. In the words of the great theologian Flip Wilson, if you can see it, if you can see it, if you can see it, get on the Isle of Patmos in the place of aloneness and see with your spiritual eyes what you desire for it to be. How do we turn it up? How do we, what would love do now? Love would turn it up now. Love would turn it up. What's the saying? Where hate abides, let love more abound. Wherever there is hate, that we're to sow love and to bring love, and we're to bring peace. So there are three ways that, what's the it that we need to turn up today? Well, let's start with the first it. Let's turn up prayer. Come on, prayer. Turn up prayer. And I know we all pray differently. In Unity, we teach affirmative prayer. In religious science or essentials of spiritual living, we teach the fivefold method of praying. We turn up prayer, for we understand that prayer is the connecting link between the mind of human, the mind of man, and the mind of God. That through prayer, it's that highest form of mind acceleration that puts us in direct oneness, direct connection with source, with spirit. To turn up prayer, to turn it all the way up. And to pray without ceasing. We pray different. There's a few prayers. The prayer of faith. God is my help in every need. God does my every hunger feed. God walks beside me, guides my way through every moment of the day. I now am wise. I now am true, patient, kind, and loving. To all things I am, can do and be through Christ, the truth that lives inside of me. God is my health. I can't be sick. The prayer of faith, or the prayer of protection, you know it. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Wherever I am. Or the prayer of provision that says, I know not by what method prayer, but this I know, God answers prayer. I know not when God sends the word that fervent prayer has been heard. I know it cometh soon or late, therefore all I got to do is pray and wait. To not underestimate the power of prayer. When I was in Memphis, Tennessee, we got all of the ministers together because at that time, the city was experiencing the highest crime and violence rate ever in its history. And everybody felt hopeless. Well, what can we do? Memphis, Tennessee at the time. And we decided to just start praying. We started hosting prayer vigils for 7 weeks. Certain times, special day. And then we culminated at the pyramid. How appropriate. And would you believe that the crime and violence rate dropped to an all-time low? And we can't take credit for it. We can't say it happened because we were praying. It just happened to happen during the time. And that came from the authorities of that time. Prayer. And some of you probably have heard this story, and I've shared it a few times, but it's a powerful story. There were a couple of teenagers just a year or so, a little over a year ago, out playing on the ice in St. Charles. And how many of you heard the story, 14 and 15? This is while playing on the ice that one young man went under the ice. And for 15 minutes, he was in that cold water. By the time the paramedics got to him, there was no life. They tried for 29 minutes to resuscitate him. To no avail. Got him to the hospital. The doctor says there's nothing else. After so many minutes, they say that a person will experience brain damage from being underwater. And they called his mother, who happened to be a praying woman. You know, that law of attraction. Got to get the right people. We need the right one. When you're going through, when we're changing the world, we can't have no sometime praying people. When I'm going through, I have this motto. If you ever hear, and cancel, I'm like, if you in doubt, I've told some couples in the hospital room, put on your door. If in doubt, stay out. Don't come into this room with all of that craziness, that consciousness of sickness and duality. If in doubt, stay out until I get well. Until I get better. And so the mother, who was a praying woman, they called her and got her to by the time she got to the hospital, she entered the room praying. She entered the hospital and she says, "Where is my child?" And they told her, "Your son has gone. There's nothing else we can do." Said she entered the room where her son was and she began to call, "Come, Holy Spirit, I know that you are here." And she called her child's name. And at the moment she called his name, the heart started beating. And by the end of the week, he got up out of that condition and still doing all right. Turn up prayer to change the world. Then turn up praise. We're going to do this thing very quickly. The 3 P's. Prayer, praise, turn up praise. And praise is the great magnifier. And we do it all the time, consciously and unconsciously, that praise increases. It's the law of increase, that whatever we praise, we raise. And whatever we raise, we get more of. And if we're looking at all of the negative images that come through our media and social media, and if we talk about it, we are praising it, we're lifting it up, and it gets larger, and it becomes magnified in our life, world, and affairs. But if we can praise what's happening, praising like a situation like this, a setting like this, praising as an assembly like this, lifting it up, telling people, post it all over Facebook, what's happening, people coming together, changing the world on one accord. Then when we praise that, we lift it up and we get more of it. Another story very quickly. 7 years of age, out playing in his yard in Atlanta, Georgia, a year ago, doing what children do. And a stranger drove by, right at the base of his drive, enticed the child with some money, called him over to the car. By the time the child got close enough, the stranger reached out, grabbed the child, put him in the car, drove off with him. For 3 hours, the stranger intended to kidnap this child. And the child, who heard the song in his church by Bishop Hezekiah Walker, "Every praise is to my God." Every word of worship with one of, so the child started singing the song, "Every praise is to my God," in the back seat of the kidnapper's car. And the child started singing. The kidnapper said, "Shut up, boy." And the child got a little louder. "Every praise is to my God, every word of worship." And the kidnapper said, "Shut up." The boy got louder. "Every praise is to my God. Every word of worship with every praise. God, my healer. God, my deliverer." And said by the time that child finished, the kidnapper pulled over, threw that boy out of the car, and said, "You get home the best way you can." Praise. Praise. Hey. Praise will set you free. Praise will loose the hands and, I got 1 minute. Come on, we got, all right. What are we going to do? All right. I'll tell you this time.
You know, that's what happens. You get a preaching teacher. All right. So you turn up prayer, turn up praise, get into it, talk about what you want, talk about the world that we want to see. Let's start creating it, talking about it. Let it become contagious. And then you get into the power of persistence. You stay persistent about it. Stay in it. Stay intentional about it. I grew up in Camden, Tennessee, the rural of Tennessee, a small town, West Tennessee. And there in the church, the mothers and the fathers, we didn't have a musician. But when they were really going through something, and I can tell when there's been a major shift in the society, something happening in the town, and they would start just moaning and groaning. And some of you have grown up with some of that. It was that kind of deep kind of, there's no words sometimes. That when we're turning it up, what would love do now? Love would pray, and love would praise. And love would be persistent in its intention, its vision to bring about a change. And they would just moan and groan. Can we get this on right here, please? I can still moan. And I didn't, at that time we didn't understand why are they moaning? Why are they groaning? And I would often ask my mother, why are they moaning and groaning in church? Then I remember one night I had to get up and make a run in the middle of night at home and get to the restroom. And I went to the bathroom and I looked under the door and I saw my mother's light on. I'm like, what is she doing up? And I'm a child and I decided to just put my ear to a door, not being nosy. And I heard her talking in a low tone. And then she started that, that moaning and groaning. I'm like, it's going to be a long night. And so the next day, and the next day I'm like, Mom, I heard you talking. Who were you talking to last night? She's a sign I was just talking to God. I'm like, but you were moaning and groaning. What was that about? She says, sometimes you get to a point where you just don't know what to say. And she says, in the Hebrew Bible, there's a passage that says the Holy Spirit will interpret the moans and the groans. Oh, yeah. So as you think about the world in which we live and you think about all that's happening and the change that we want to see happen and that we want to bring about, we got to be optimistic. And unitics, raise your hand, unitics. Those of you who consider yourself to be an optimist, eternal optimist, raise your hand. Come on. You got to hold the consciousness and the intention that it's going to change. I got a feeling everything is going to be all right. Oh, I've got a feeling everything is gonna be all right. Why don't you tell your neighbor, it's gonna be all right. It's all right. I've got a feeling everything is gonna be all right. Be all right. Be all right. Be all right. Come on, help me out. I got a feeling everything's gonna be all right. Oh, I got a feeling everything's gonna be all right. Oh, I got a feeling everything's gonna be all right. Be all right. Spirit has confirmed it. Everything's gonna be all right. Oh, Spirit has confirmed it. Everything's gonna be all right. Oh, Spirit has confirmed it. Everything's gonna be all right. Be all right. Be all right. Be
right. All right. Be all right. All right, all right. All right, all right. All right, all right. Be all right. All right. All right. All right. All right. Be all right. Be all right. Be all right. God bless you. Thank you.